Okay, I think we are ready to start. Good morning and good afternoon to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Bobbee Cardillo, and as a member of the Zonta International Advocacy Committee, co-convener of the ZontaUSACaucus, and a proud member of the Zonta Club of Fairfax County, Virginia, in the USA. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on gender equality and climate action and Zonta Says Now. So in addition to myself, we have a number of other presenters, and I'm going to give you a brief outline on each of them. The first who will speak is Carole Theobald. She is the founder of Zonta Says Now to Gender Equality and Climate Action. She is a member of the Zonta Club of Perth, Western Australia, and the futurist and leadership coordinator of District 23. In addition, we have Jane Austin, who is the District 7 delegate to the ZontaUSACaucus and the chair of the ZontaUSACaucus Climate Change Subcommittee. And she is a member of the Zonta Club of Minneapolis in the USA. We also have Julie Trone speaking, who is the chair of the District 12 Action for Environment and Gender Equality Committee, a member of the ZontaUSACaucus Climate Change Subcommittee, and the president of the Zonta Club of Fort Collins, Colorado, USA. And finally, we are pleased to be joined by Errick, Elavia, who is the governor of District 25, which includes our members in India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. And he is a member of the Zonta Club of Bombay 1 in India. So we do hope this will be an interactive session, and there will be an opportunity for questions at the end, but we encourage you to put your questions into the Q&A anytime you think of them, and we will get to them at the end of the program. And also, I would ask you at this time if you could mute your phones and your computers, and also turn your screens off for the presentations. So, oh, no, let's go back to the, okay, we can leave it there. I just wanted to say we are going to talk about a little bit in the beginning about who is Zonta International? Who are we? So that you can relate to your own organization. If it is a global one, this is how we are operating at the global level. First of all, who are we? We are an organization of professionals dedicated to advancing and empowering women throughout the world through service and advocacy. We are actually in about 62 countries around the world, and we have a membership of 27 to 28,000 members. We work a lot with different agencies of the UN, UNICEF, UNFPA, UN Women, and we have consultative status with ECOSOC at the UN. In addition to that, we also have participatory status with the Council of Europe. Next slide, please. So how did we get involved in climate change, climate action, and gender equality? Well, the Zonta International Board was looking into this and published a statement actually approved a statement in April of last year, about a year ago. An extensive statement about what we want our members to know about climate change and the kind of things that we want to take action on going forward, and what we want the public to know. And so this was published in June of 2021 and sent out for our districts to learn about and to begin to take action on. And that information is then filtered down to our clubs. We have about 1,200 clubs around the world. So the statement itself had a number of calls to action within it for our membership. First of all, we needed to create awareness of the link between climate change and gender-related consequences of climate change. Secondly, we needed to plan for climate change advocacy actions and called on our clubs to do that, to make an advocacy plan. We wanted to promote women as decision makers at the table where environmental sustainability is discussed and hopefully implemented. We need to promote women in STEM education so that we can have more women leaders with the expertise needed to make a difference in the future. And finally, we wanted to advocate for national policies that take women's economic opportunity into account. So that's what came out in our climate change about a climate change statement, rather, about a year ago. Next page, please. And all the while that we do this, we need to keep in mind the vision of Zonta International, because it's very important to us that we envision a world where women's rights are considered human rights and that every woman is able to achieve her full potential. In such a world, as we see it, women have access to all resources and are represented on an equal basis with men in all decision-making, and they always have a seat at the table. In such a world, of course, no woman has to live in fear of violence. So that is where we start. Next page, please. And I am now ready to introduce you to our first speaker, who is going to introduce how Zonta Says Now came about. Carole Theobald is with the Zonta Club of Perth, Australia. She's the District 23 futurist and climate activist, and she is the founder of Zonta Says Now. Carole, it's over to you.
Thanks, Bobbee. I'll just share my screen. Oh, just gone into a panic here. Where's the screen gone? Here we go. Sorry. There we go. That's better. Can you see my screen? Yes, good. Just checking. Zonta Says Now started in early 2020 when my Zonta and work worlds collided, literally. At work, I'd started a new role and had to research reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the transport sector. I was shocked by the science and how serious the climate crisis is. In The Future We Choose, and many other books I read, I learned how badly women and girls are impacted by climate change and how they are the key to a more sustainable future. I realized that I'd been living under a rock. We needed to ramp up all of Zonta's programs now. I shared my concerns with Judy Gorton in the photo here and Sandra Burns, who is on the call today. And Sandra is our District 23 governor. And as you can see from the map in the middle of the screen, District 23 covers most of Australia. Sandra and Judy are very experienced Zontians and very good friends. We joined the dots between climate change and gender equality. And they said, if you care that much, do something about it. So we did. Have you ever seen a steam train? You're probably wondering, where is this going? They are amazing machines that were developed in the mid-1800s at the dawn of the industrial age, at a time when humans around the world started to use more and more fossil fuels. Well, today I'm going to use this train to join the dots between increased greenhouse gas emissions and gender inequality. You see, increased greenhouse gas emissions are causing global warming that's causing extreme weather events that trigger societal disruption that magnify any existing inequality, including gender inequality. Zonta Says Now shows how we can work together to stop this train of events. We were concerned with the science. This is the graph that started us on our climate journey. It shows we have a real problem with real estate. carbon dioxide that should be in the ground is in the air. It's forming a blanket around the Earth and interfering with the transfer of heat to and from our planet. For over 800,000 years, carbon dioxide levels have stayed below 300 parts per million. But look how they've gone ballistic since 1950. Global temperatures have already increased over 1.2 degrees since pre-industrial times. If you average out the global temperatures from 1850 to 2020, and then you mark the temperatures of each year, the blue ones are showing it's colder than the average, and the red ones hotter than the average. And you can see that in the last 20 years, we've been warming up. This picture shows the impacts and risks for selected natural, managed and human systems. The purple areas show where there's a high risk of severe climate impacts, which could be irreversible. So you see we've got warm water corals, we've got Arctic region, we've got coastal flooding. And then the red areas show where we're already seeing severe climate change impacts and risks. And that's with fisheries and terrestrial ecosystems. And some impacts are detectable everywhere else. Our mangroves, crop yields, tourism, and our heat-related morbidity and mortality. Half a degree doesn't sound much, but it can make a big difference. Extreme heat is a problem at 1.5 degrees of global warming for 14% of the population. At 2 degrees, more than a third of the population will be exposed. Have you ever heard of wet bulb events? These occur when heat and humidity are too high for sweat to evaporate. Such conditions can be fatal for humans if the wet bulb temperature exceeds 35 degrees centigrade. Imagine if you have no air conditioning, how would you cope? This is a social justice issue. Below 1.5 degrees, our Arctic oceans are free of sea ice in summer only once in 100 years, but at 2 degrees, it's every 10 years. Our coral reefs would be just about gone at 2 degrees. Imagine having no coral reefs. We could lose double the number of species of plants and vertebrates with just half a degree of temperature rise. This is why it is so important to reduce emissions and slow down global warming as quickly as possible. Even if we stopped emitting all greenhouse gases today, it would take about 20 years for temperatures to begin falling. So we have to do as much as we can to reduce emissions as quickly as possible, or we're creating an unbearable future for ourselves and our children. When it comes to global warming and those extreme weather events, the world may have already crossed 9 tipping points that will lead to catastrophic climate change. Things are happening quickly. We're concerned with the speed of that change. Globally, our oceans are warming, sea levels are rising, our ice caps and glaciers are melting. We're seeing hotter summers, longer droughts, bigger bushfires, fiercer storms, and extensive flooding. Our biodiversity is being destroyed. Human activity has altered almost 75% of the Earth's surface, and around 1 million animals and plant species are threatened with extinction, and our reefs are dying. People are being displaced by intense heat, bushfires, floods, drought, and famine. We don't know for sure how many people will be displaced by climate change, as estimates vary from over 200 million to around 1.2 billion people by 2050. So let's look at the social disruption. The UN Refugee Agency explains that the climate crisis is destroying livelihoods, driving displacement, and fueling conflict, putting millions of lives at risk. In 2020, more people were displaced by extreme climate than conflict, with 55 million forced to leave their homes. 50,000 of these were in Australia. Droughts and famine add to the despair in conflict areas like Syria, Ethiopia, and West Africa. Whole countries like the Marshall Islands will be wiped out by rising sea levels. And more disruption is on the way. A recent report from the Institute for Economics and Peace shows that things will get worse. For example, the number of people experiencing high or extreme water stress is expected to more than double by 2040, and impact over 4 billion people. This is going to be a huge problem in India, China, Indonesia, Australia, Mongolia, the Philippines, and Timor-Leste. Now let's look at gender equality, the gender equality end of the train. As Zontians, we know the statistics. Today, 2/3 of the world's chronically hungry and illiterate are women. 130 million girls are not in school. 1 in 5 girls are married under 18. And 1 in 3 women have experienced violence. Having fewer legal rights means some women cannot own land, open a business, sign a contract, or open a bank account. Women may make up half of humanity, but their voices are not heard equally around decision-making tables, as only 1/4 of parliamentarians are women. During a climate emergency, women and girls are more likely to be injured and killed. Why? They may not know how to climb a tree or swim. Their clothing may prevent them from running, and culturally, they may not be able to leave the home without a male relative. Caregiving responsibilities, pregnancy and childbirth can also prevent evacuation. Women are often not included in disaster preparedness planning, yet approximately 80% of people displaced by climate change are women. After a disaster in refugee camps, women and girls experience more sexual assault, physical abuse, and human trafficking. In a 6-month period, nearly 1,200 women were raped while collecting wood and water at refugee camps in Uganda and Chad. Food insecurity is another problem, especially for maternal health and that of very young children. For men, their biggest threat is suicide, with 3 to 4 times as many men taking their own lives as women. Deaths from disasters are not gender equal and can have huge impacts on communities. 96% of people killed in a flood in the Solomon Islands were women. 90% of those killed in a cyclone in Bangladesh were women. And over 70% of those killed in tsunamis in Indonesia, India, and Tonga Samoa were women. Climate change is making life harder for women. The poor are poorer. Unemployment is a reality, as is injury or death. Caregiving makes women particularly vulnerable. All the disruption triggers more violence, and women may have to make hard choices around prostitution and child marriage to survive. To cap it all off, women make up half of humanity, but only 1/4 of politicians, and less than 1/3 of climate negotiators are women, making it difficult for women's voices to be heard on the world stage. Zonta Says Now works at both ends of the train. We take climate action and reduce gender inequality. The UN's joined the dots between climate and gender too. The UN panel on climate change says that we must keep temperature rises since pre-industrial days to less than 1.5 degrees Celsius. To achieve this, we must halve greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and halve them again by 2040 and reach net zero by 2050. Pre-pandemic, the UN Women launched programs to achieve 100 years of progress towards gender equality in 10 years. This may have been premature. The World Economic Forum, in its gender gap report for 2021, has found that the disruptions caused by the pandemic has put gender equality back around 35 years, a generation in just 2 years. So we can't sit around, we've got to take action. Of course, if we can meet all the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, we'll be on track for a more sustainable world. We tend to think that Goal 5 is the only one that relates to gender equality. However, a recent report by the Equality Institute found that unless we end violence against women and girls, we won't achieve 14 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Gender equality is the key to so many things. Right, that's it for the doom and gloom. Now we come to the good part. We can see many opportunities to create a more sustainable, gender equal world. Renewable energy is a game changer. Solar and wind energy provide clean energy for cooking and lighting in developing countries. With electricity, more people can access phone chargers and smartphones, giving access to more information and services. New technologies running on renewable energy, such as electric vehicles, will reduce the air pollution that currently kills around 8 million people a year and save us all money in the long run. With massive land and ocean regeneration, we can increase biodiversity. We can plant more trees to green our cities so they're cooler and more comfortable to live in. We can replace that outdated measure of a country's success, the gross domestic product, get rid of it. GDP relies on economies having continuous growth and using infinite resources that we just don't have. We can replace GDP with fairer measures based around our stewardship of the environment and the health and happiness of our people. New Zealand, for example, already has a well-being budget. We're on the dawn of a new age where women will be able to have electricity in their homes for cooking and lighting and pumping water. No more collecting wood and water. With more gender equality, we will have more women in decision-making processes, so these climate solutions can be accelerated and work for everyone in the community. Isn't this a world you want to live in? So here's how we create it. This is how we stop that runaway train. Zonta International's taken the first step by raising the issue through its statement on climate change. In District 23, we've developed Zonta Says NOW with a mission to create a gender-equal, sustainable world. We can achieve this by educating girls, advocating for women's rights, and inspiring more female leaders. Let me explain. Girls with 12 years of education have more life choices and can better understand their reproductive health and rights. They may also have up to 5 fewer children, meaning 1 billion fewer people on the planet this century. Our Zonta International programs are making a big difference to many young lives around the world with projects to educate girls, improve health, reduce violence, and end child marriage. Technology underpins our future, and women need to be able to use it and create it. We must close the gender digital divide. We need to encourage more girls to do STEM subjects so they can pursue careers in conservation, science, and economics, and know what to do in extreme weather events and disasters. Like the Girl Guides say, we need to help girls to be prepared and not scared. Advocating for women's rights means ramping up all of our advocacy programs. It means working with men to stop violence before it begins. It means learning from our Indigenous women who are the holders of the knowledge about our lands. It means closing the gaps in pay and superannuation to reduce financial disadvantage and closing the gender digital divide so women can access services. It means working with local councils to make sure communities are prepared before disaster hits. We need to inspire more female leaders. 4 of the 5 countries leading the way in climate response are led by women. They're Norway, New Zealand, Finland, and Sweden. They also have 40% or more women in their parliaments. Leadership starts with speaking up and speaking out and seizing opportunities in our careers and communities. Whether it is leading a team in Zonta, taking a lead in a project at work, organising an event in our community, or leading a country, we can all play our part. Our Zonta leadership programme prepares us for any leadership role, inside Zonta, at work, or in the community. We promote Zonta's award programmes as they support future leaders in aerospace sciences and engineering, business technology and public policy. As Christiana Figueres, my hero, puts it, when there are more women in boardrooms and in high-level positions in institutions, You get decisions that are wiser and longer term. So when you put all the activities together, they show just how much we can do to achieve our gender equal sustainable world. So how do we coordinate our activities across all of these areas? We use 3 tools: our website, think tank, and framework for action. Our website is our knowledge bank and is always growing. Our 2 monthly think tank meetings let Zontians connect, learn, share ideas, be inspired and get energized. Our framework for action has 5 steps that can be applied to educating girls, advocating for women's rights, and inspiring more female leaders. Let me show you. This chart gives a few examples of the actions we can take for each theme. So we can gather the facts for all of the items around educating girls, advocating for women's rights, and inspiring more female leaders. We can lead by example by mentoring young women, or reducing our own carbon footprint, or taking a leadership role in our clubs. And we can add our voice by sharing what we've learned and what we are doing with family, friends, and co-workers. We can advocate in our clubs by holding science events, having speakers on issues, joining marches and supporting each other to take on leadership roles. We can collaborate with like-minded organisations, such as our school-based Z clubs and our university-based Golden Z clubs, as well as other Zonta clubs, organisations and industry groups. Let's see how we use the tools to take action. Firstly, we need to know what we are talking about. So we gather the facts about gender equality and climate action. The Zonta Says NOW website is a treasure trove of information, taking you from no knowledge to having a good grasp of key issues. We have loads of useful links to articles, films, campaigns, apps, podcasts, and organisations. We have our bi-monthly newsletters, posts, leaflets, videos, and recordings of meetings. Our website is our knowledge bank and is always growing. The next step is to lead by example. There are so many ways that we can do this. We use our 5 R's guide and our sustainability principles and apps to track and reduce our emissions. The 1 Million Women app has loads of information. We can mentor a student or donate goods to the local women's refuge. We can set ourselves a challenge to stop using plastic for a week, a month, a year, a lifetime. We can meet or write to local councillors and members of parliament to see where they stand on gender equality and climate action. We can volunteer to clean up a beach and post articles on social media. What about standing for the local council? The list is endless. Just do something. One of the biggest things that you can do for the climate is talk about it. So when members have the facts and have started to lead by example, we ask them to share their experience with their family, friends, and work colleagues. We post articles on the website as conversation starters and share achievements in the think tank. Members have shared how they are on their local council sustainability groups, how they have organised recycling projects to raise funds for their local women's refuge, or presented on gender equality in their workplaces. The 4th step is to advocate for gender equality and climate action. This is done at the club level. We encourage clubs to understand what is happening in their local communities and ask them to invite councillors, MPs to meetings so they can explain their position on climate change at meetings and describe what they're doing for gender equality. To raise awareness of the International Women's Day of Science and Women and Girls in Science, one club holds Women in Science events. A recent one featured female marine biologists from the local museum. Their workplace took them from the tropics of Northern Australia down to the cold waters of Antarctica. They worked on coral reefs where they had to keep one eye out for crocodiles, and they operated robotic submarines, attaching a kitchen nylon brush to a robotic arm so they could capture tissue samples for DNA analysis. They say you can't be what you can't see, and the schoolgirls in the audience now all want to be scientists. One club has established an award for a climate leader that attracted women who had worked to save forests and toughen environmental laws. The winner had set up a revolving fund so that not-for-profit community organisations could purchase solar panels and reduce their electricity bills. The savings they made, they used to repay the loan, which funded the next organisation's loan. Very clever and innovative. The last step is to collaborate with like-minded organisations to magnify our voice. We have developed a strong association with Natalie Isaacs, the founder of 1 Million Women. This organisation has over 1 million members advocating for climate action around the world. We feature 1 Million Women campaigns in most of our newsletters and on our website and support their advocacy activities. We also encourage members to participate in the activities of the Independent Australia Climate Council that's got many webinars with local scientists. We also promote Plastic Free July that has reached 326 million people in 177 countries. Both 1 Million Women and Plastic Free July were started by women in Australia. Our think tank attracts between 10 and 40 Zontians, depending on what other things are going on in their clubs. Zontians are very busy people. Zonta Says Now is bringing Zontians with a shared interest together across the district and across the world. In February, our think tank attracted Zontians from Australia, Finland, Luxembourg, USA, and Sweden. Think tank meetings and newsletters are themed so we can dive into an issue and invite speakers to learn more about what we can do. In our think tanks, we also highlight the talents of our own members. Some have extensive environmental experience, are the environmental lawyers, STEM educators, public policy workers. We're always discovering something new. Members are often members of other clubs, community groups, and have professional affiliations through which we can source speakers and just learn more. Zonta Says Now is helping Zontians to collaborate. For example, we have Zontians today who are collaborating across districts across the world. Zonta Says Now is accelerating our mission and has put the international into Zonta at a local level. Together, we are learning from each other, and we all have different strengths. Every country has a different way of doing things, so I've been very excited to see how the USA Caucus has planned to take Zonta Says Now to the next level. Through Zonta Says Now, there is so much we can do to keep the next generation smiling. I'll now hand you over to Bobbee, who'll tell you more about the USA Caucus. Thank you, Bobbee.
Thank you so much, Carole. Yes, while you were busy doing all of that, getting it started, Zonta Says Now over in Australia, we were busy getting the ZontaUSACaucus organized and started here in the United States. The ZontaUSACaucus was founded in 2018, just 4 years ago, under the presidency of President Sonia Honig-Cho, who I'm delighted is on the call today. We are representing about 7,000 Zontians in the United States, and clearly our purpose is to facilitate advocacy at both the national and the state level throughout the United States. We have engaged in a couple of awareness campaigns. We created from scratch a child marriage billboard and digital sign campaign with lots of materials for our clubs to use. And of course, we've also participated in the Zonta Says No to Violence Against Women campaign that is already active throughout the Zonta world. Next page, please. This is just an example of some of the signs and billboards that we have up and have had up around the country. The Zonta Club of Minneapolis has put up a poster just outside the Capitol in Maryland, and Maryland is an active state where we are trying to get the laws changed on child marriage. The Zonta Club of Everett, Washington put up a very large billboard in their area as well. And currently we have billboards up in the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina area because there has been activity recently in South Carolina. And I know we are working on getting a billboard in the Boston area because Massachusetts is also considering changing their laws. You know, when we started this campaign in the United States, we realized that most Americans did not realize this was even a problem in the US. We saw this as a problem in other countries. Come to find out, only 2 states in the United States had laws that made 18 the minimum age for marriage with no exceptions. Some of our states had no minimum age at all. And there's a couple that still are in that situation. So we need to change laws in a lot of states since the start of our campaign. You can give me the next slide. We have been able to influence legislatures in a total of 6 states to change their laws so that now 18 with no exceptions is the law in 6 of our 50 states. But our campaign needed to, first of all, make the public aware that this is an issue in the United States, not just overseas. And secondly, give them an opportunity to take action. So we partnered with UNICEF USA to create stopchildmarriages.org, a website with just a ton of information about the situation in the United States, and then an opportunity to customize a letter to their own legislators about the situation in their own state, and then send that letter through the press of a button. We made it very easy for the public to take action after educating themselves. Next slide, please. Oh, that's the last slide. Okay, well, there we go. Can we go to the next one? At any rate.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I have to check this.
Okay, no problem. I'll just go on speaking. We began by taking advocacy action at the state level. And we did that with the child marriage campaign by joining the National Coalition to End Child Marriage. And Elavia, my co-convener of the caucus, is on that national steering committee. And through that, we were able to work with other like-minded organizations in state coalitions in order to influence in the laws and the lawmakers in those particular states. We hold rallies and chain-ins, actually. Okay, that's fine. You can leave it there. It's actually the one before that, but that's fine. Okay, just leave it there. So at any rate, we have held rallies at state houses, particularly I can mention Pennsylvania, and then in other states we testify at hearings, such as in Massachusetts right now, where there is talk going on about changing the law to 18 with no exceptions. So that's what we have done at the state level. Our campaign also includes a social media toolkit necessary for all of our clubs to be on the same page in terms of talking about this issue. And it gave them hashtags and the website that we want people to go to, as well as sample social media posts for them to use. Try the next slide. Okay, we've gotten a little bit mixed up here. We also need to take action at the national level, in addition to the state level. So we have established the ability to send out an action on every other Friday. We call it the Fast Action Friday Alert. And it allows the member who receives it to quickly, through the push of a button, customize a letter and send it to their legislator on some particular issue that the caucus is focused on. Obviously, we testify in support of bills, and I've mentioned the states, but we also lobby Congress, as we did at our 2017 North American Inter-District meeting, when we went to Congress en masse and talked about ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment, as well as a bill to stop rape on college campuses. And finally, we collaborate with like-minded organizations through coalitions. We belong to the ERA Coalition, which is very active right now, trying to get the ERA recognized as the 28th Amendment to the US Constitution. And the National Coalition to End Child Marriage, as we've discussed with our billboard campaign. And also we are a member of the US Women's Caucus at the UN and have participated with them in all of their efforts to influence the US mission. We want the US mission to include Zontians on their delegations, just as we have seen the Danish mission include our past international president, Maria Jose Ostergaard. And we've seen the German mission include our Zontian member as well. So we would like to see that happen in the United States, and we are working through the US Women's Caucus at the UN to try to make that an actuality. Okay, next slide, please. All right, here's an example of us campaigning at a hearing on the Equal Rights Amendment at Congress on Capitol Hill, testifying at the Maryland legislature on child marriage, an example of a billboard that we have posted. Next slide, please. And this is the slide I was mentioning earlier about how we act at the state level, but you'll see in the picture there that is a picture of Unchained at Last, our colleagues that we partner with at a chain-in. A chain-in is an event where they dress in wedding gowns and chains on their wrists and what do you call it, an X over their mouths, indicating the situation in the United States where women are really helpless when they get into marriage at an underage and below the age of 18, where they can't easily get out of the marriage or seek help because they are not considered adults. Okay, next slide, please. Throughout all of this, we have to make sure that we have educated our members on how to take action in a Zonta way. Zonta is non-sectarian and nonpartisan, and we needed to make our members aware that there is a difference between being political and apolitical, and a difference between being partisan and nonpartisan. And a Zontian can be both nonpartisan and political at the same time by advocating, by raising awareness about issues, by writing to their legislative members, by taking action, and by taking a stand, perhaps through a statement on some particular issue that we care about. But the thing we cannot do is promote fidelity to any particular party or candidate. So this little graphic was designed to remind our members how we take action. Next slide, please. So how is the USA Caucus constituted? How do we function? Well, we're made up of 13 representatives from the 13 districts that have Zonta clubs in the United States. And we operate in between our monthly meetings through working subcommittees. This year, our subcommittees include one on the Equal Rights Amendment, one on child marriage, violence against women, women's health, women's education and work, and finally, this year we have added climate change. And the reason that came about is that when Zonta International published their statement on climate change in June, the caucus was actually on hiatus over the summer. So we met again in September, and we had a subcommittee dedicated to education and a different subcommittee dedicated to work. And we decided we would combine those two into one in order to add a climate change subcommittee. And then we were fortunate enough to participate and to hear the webinar that the Zonta International Advocacy Committee offered in September of 2021 on women and climate change. And it was during that presentation that I first heard Carole talk about Zonta Says Now. And I was taken by the concept of working together through a think tank, because the caucus in the United States had been trying to figure out, how do we mine the information that our members already have, and how do we share that with all the other members? And the think tank is a brilliant solution for doing that. So our ZontaUSACaucus created an ad hoc subcommittee to look into the think tank. And we had members actually attend Carole's think tank meetings in order to see how they do it. And they came back and we decided to create our own think tank on climate change and gender equality. And I am pleased to tell you that we held our very first meeting this past Saturday. And we had a wonderful response and great speakers, a lot of enthusiasm. And we have our next one already in the works for middle of May this year. And we're going to stick to a topic that we have chosen as our first topic to address, which is water. We already have some very wonderful speakers lined up. So for those of you in the US, please keep your eyes out for the think tank event that will happen in May. Okay, next slide. Finally, the last thing that our ZontaUSACaucus has been working on is a collaboration with District 23 and now hopefully as well District 25 on creating Zonta Says Now USA. We want to take this hopefully to the next level through our think tank and continue to work collaboratively with Carole's group in Australia, and you'll also hear about Errick's groups in India. Okay, next slide. And now I'd like to present our next speaker, Jane Austin. Jane is with the Zonta Club of Minneapolis. She is the District 7 Advocacy Chair, and in addition, she's our District 7 representative on the ZontaUSACaucus and leads the subcommittee on climate change and gender equality. So Jane, over to you.
Thank you, Bobbee. And good morning or good evening, everyone. Julie, if you'd share our slides. Julie, can you bring the slides back up again?
Yes, if you can go ahead and get started while I get this moving.
Okay. All right. Well, the subcommittee was set up just last fall, as Bobbee said, to focus on climate change and gender equality. Our members on the subcommittee are those from the caucus who expressed a real interest in getting involved in these issues. Our main mission is to inform and connect across our membership, to gather and share useful resources, and to identify actions and advocacy that our clubs and members can engage in. As part of the USA Caucus, our other role is to ensure that climate change is considered in all aspects of our service and advocacy.
My apologies, I'm having a little technical difficulty. So Jane, if you can continue.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to my second slide. Our subcommittee, of course, is pretty small. It's just 5 or 6 members out of our overall caucus. And so to extend our reach and effect, our primary strategy is the creation of a US think tank, which was stimulated by the really awesome work that Carole and others in Australia have done. A forum to increase awareness, understanding, engagement, and interchange among our members and experts that we can bring in. The think tank, of course, is intended to involve all of our members who have a knowledge, interest, and a passion on climate change. another key goal of the forum is not only to inform our members, but also put the information that's out there into a much clearer context for their own lives and their communities, and to motivate them to take actions in many of the ways that Carole was thinking. We're still in the very early stages overall to get that going. Yeah, that's good.
If we could pause just for a second, my apologies with this. I'm having technical difficulties. Do you see the slide you're on, Jane?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna, okay, thank you. Jane, you can continue. You just tell me when to change slides.
Yeah. Okay. Probably go to the next slide there, or the third slide. Yeah.
This
Okay.
one?
We know that climate change is a really huge and often intimidating issue. Our challenge in our think tank is to make it much more relatable and more doable. Yeah. That one. Yeah. The next one. Yep. One up, one. Right there.
Okay.
The starting point was the statement by the U.S. Women's Caucus of the UN, who identified 7 key issues as listed here. And they had recommendations within each of those that really applied at the global level. But rather than trying to work on these, all 7 of those issues at once and at the global scope, for the think tank in the US, we've chosen to focus on 4 key topics that interrelate to those 7 issues, focusing on one at a time. And first, we've chosen to focus on water. And as Bobbee mentioned, at our starting point, we just held our first Zoom event last weekend with presentations from 5 speakers on diverse topics of relating water, climate, communities, and gender. Our second one is planned for May to continue to expand our discussions in water, and we'll continue on through next fall and winter on taking on energy. These events are designed, and the resources we'll be developing online, similar to Carole's knowledge bank that she referred to, will help expand our connections across the United States and also help us to start identifying opportunities for effective actions and advocacy, both at the individual level and at the group level. Next slide. First and foremost, in our framework of how do we approach this through our subcommittee is information, increasing our collective understanding of how climate is affecting water or other focal issues related to climate change. For example, with water, what's the access to clean water? How are communities affected by flooding, drought, or sea level rise? What are the strategies to conserve water? And in turn, how do these aspects affect communities, in particular women and girls? As we've learned through the other work that we've done through the caucus, as Bobbee went through with the ERA, child marriage, and other issues, as we go about it, we work to collect and synthesize information, and we need to put it in ways that are much as understandable and engaging to individuals, put it into the context of their lives. We engage with knowledgeable individuals. We develop topic-specific webinars, such as our water webinars, where we can bring in experts from outside Zonta to help us understand the issues. And it's also really important when we're dealing with something as huge as climate change to scale down the information to be pertinent to your own area or region. What are the types of climate change effects? Because it will affect us all differently. And how does that regional or area affect your gender and your communities? And as we've done for child marriage and ERA and other things, develop the social media materials and campaigns that we can use to inform our members in our communities. Next slide. while Julie is working on fixing that, I'll mention that this step of information is really critical. I come from a science background. So for me, having really sound science-based information when it comes to climate change and understanding of the context of the issue, which is quite complex, is really foundational to our ability to develop very sustainable efforts and advocacy, and also to be heard and accepted by others in our community. Yeah, back one. As we work to inform ourselves, it's also important to reach out and connect with others who can contribute their knowledge, expertise, their stories, their ideas, and also their support. Members and clubs can share their tools and best practices. That's really helped us with our other work in the caucus. What worked, what really caught the attention and energized people to take action. Bring in different perspectives and hear stories from others. Particularly learn from different ethnic, geographic, and economic groups. What are their challenges? How are they dealing with it? Where is their energy being placed? And what are their ideas that we may be able to learn from? These connections and collaborations with like-minded organizations really can amplify our voices and ideas. And as demonstrated by this at the CSW and many similar organizations around the world, we certainly are not alone. As Satoru mentioned, individually, we are one drop, and together we are an ocean. Next slide. The ultimate purpose of the think tank is to energize individuals to take action. An important part of action for us has been advocacy. And this indeed has been a key focus of the caucus, as Bobbee mentioned. Advocating can take multiple forms, talking to your neighbors, church, community forums, both to recognize and understand what's going on and to join you in taking actions. And importantly, advocating in ways that will help push your decision makers and inform your decision makers to change policies and laws to make a difference. It's important to recognize we can do this both locally, at the state or regional level, and at the national level. As we've learned through our other work in the caucuses, we can identify local community actions that can make a difference. We are working to track and advocate on policies and proposed laws and regulations at multiple levels. And as we've done, especially for, as Bobbee mentioned, for Fast Action Friday, we can develop a call to action system so that individuals can easily know what's going on and when it's a good time to contact their decision makers. We can share tools and lessons learned for what makes really effective advocacy. We really learned that with child marriage is we were able to successfully pass it in Minnesota, and what we learned there, we can pass on to Massachusetts and other states. And it's important within Zonta as a service organization to link our advocacy and service activities. Next. When we advocate for something, it's really important that it's always based on sound, objective information. It's appropriate to the scale of the issue at hand, that the actions we support actually do improve environment and gender equality. Sometimes there are unexpected things that actually don't achieve that. And as Bobbee noted earlier, for Zonta, we strive to be nonpartisan and non-sectarian. Next slide. Our think tank approach, which is in its early stages compared to what Carole and others in Australia have developed, is intended to create sustainable change and engagement and to accelerate our mission. Increase awareness and recognition on the importance of the issue. That education leads to a deeper understanding and acceptance of that issue and the context in our personal lives, in our communities. In turn, leading to greater interest and real engagement that helps motivate individuals and community actions to actually make a difference, thus leading to sustainable engagement and change. Found this quote from a news article recently that marching in the streets can inspire us, editorials can open our minds, hashtags can galvanize, but legislation is the only thing that lasts. And that's a really inspiring quote. But we know that legislation can be changed by the next administration. And it's often a pretty long stepwise process to getting that good legislation passed. Ultimately, what we need to do is to bring all of our society together in common purpose and understanding to build towards a better and a much more sustainable environment and true gender equality. Next slide. So next I'd like to introduce Julie, the president of the Zonta Club, Fort Collins, on our passionate and dedicated support in our Zonta Climate Change Caucus Committee, subcommittee. Julie?
Hi, everyone. I am having technical difficulties. I can't get my video. So,
Juliet,
yes.
Juliet, Carole, if you're having problem with forwarding the slides, I've uploaded yours onto my computer so I could actually do them for you if that would help.
That would help greatly. Let's do that. I'm having trouble even opening my video. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Okay. My video is not starting either. So I'm going to be just a picture. And I appreciate that, Carole. If you can share the screen.
Yeah,
I appreciate everyone's patience. I don't know what happened. This is one of those times when everything worked yesterday. So you know how that feels.
Can you see that okay?
Yeah. I see it, so I'm assuming everyone sees it. So again, I'm Julie Trone with Zonta District 12, Colorado, Montana, South Dakota, and Wyoming. And we started a climate, gender equality and climate action committee in our district, Action for Environment and Gender Equality. Next slide, please. All right, Zonta Says Now. So where do we go from here? Next slide. We ask questions. That's the way we start action, is starting to ask questions as part of the framework, which means gathering facts. And as we all know, curiosity is the heart of learning. So I'm going to present only 2 questions to ask today, but there are quite a few more that we can always ask. Next slide, please. The first one is why. So it's my experience that we don't ask why enough when decisions are being made. We don't ask why these decisions were made. And as we know, decisions are typically not made with gender equality in mind. So I encourage you to ask why. Didn't cover why people ask those questions, and maybe they'll think more thoroughly and change the decision. Next slide, please. Gender equality is a huge area of concern, as we've spoken about this morning or this evening for some of you. Historically and globally, corporations, governments, nonprofits, communities make decisions that are not gender sensitive, and we need to change that. So encouraging more women at the negotiating table and asking some relevant why questions. So I have a few for you to think about, but I'm sure you will have many more after today's presentation. Next slide, please. So why are we continuing to support carbon-based transportation by widening major highways? That's a question that came to my mind. Next slide, please. And why not promote and improve other methods of public transportation first? Next slide, please. Why don't we have more women making climate action decisions? This is the big why. And why is, go ahead, next slide, please. And why is my community not talking about this issue? And for those of us who have communities who are talking about this issue, why not get involved in the decision-making process? Next slide, please. I encourage you to ask why. Bring your passion, your talent to the table, to the church, to the store, to the community, to your leaders in your community, family and friends. Ask why, and use all the resources you have: social media, contacts, email, your telephone. Begin a conversation. That's how we learn. So I encourage you to ask why. Next slide. Now, how about the question how? If you can go ahead and click. We usually hear how much money, how many people, how much time. Go ahead, Carole, you can go ahead. So the question how is to ask decision makers, stay right there, Ask decision makers how this decision, legislation, or project affect women and girls, because we all matter. And how can we adapt to climate change? How can you make a difference? Go ahead to the next slide, please. So as Dr. Jane Goodall mentioned, what you do makes a difference. But I wanted to point out that all action, big or small or in between, leads to making a difference. So let's continue to explore how you can make a difference so you can decide what kind of difference you will make, hopefully after today's presentation. Next slide, please. So go ahead and click again. It all begins at home. Home begins in the heart, in the mind, and where you work, live, and play. This is where we start action. It flows into your schools, your organizations, everywhere in your community. And so your passion and your talent, these are your building blocks to advocate and serve your family and community, to adapt, preserve, and sustain changes that benefit everyone. Next slide, please. So grassroots action, this is the key to starting to act, is grassroots. That means we're starting from the beginning, something that's passionate to us. It arises from crisis, disaster, need, and unfairness. It's pursued by those who are willing to express their passions, their anger, and their need with a focus. Next slide, please. Action is being present to pursue justice, fairness, and equality. It doesn't have to be large scale, but it needs people like all of us to work together. Every step we take towards gender equality and climate action is a grassroots action. Next slide, please. So action can be presented, and Carole, Bobbee, and Jane have pointed out already, via many different ways. You've seen some from the ZontaUSACaucus. You've seen what's come out of Australia. So they can be an event, a program, a website, a think tank, a podcast. Maybe you want to give a speech, write an article, have an art project or exhibit. Music has been a very powerful tool of change, and there's other endeavors as well. So everyone's invited to act regardless of your age, your background, your culture, and your gender identity. We all need to do this together. Next slide, please. So I want to share with you a story about a journey from a woman in my state of Colorado about local grassroots action. Next slide, please. She's a former Zontian, and in 2016, she learned there were high levels of PFAS, which are toxic chemicals, in their community water system. The culprit was firefighting foam, and that firefighting foam ran into their water reservoir from the US Air Force Base in Colorado Springs. Next slide, please. This busy mom, like a lot of us are very busy. She was a busy mom, a restaurant owner, and she was running for a seat in her county commissioner's table. And but she couldn't sit still because she knew that drinking, cooking, and bathing in toxic water was just so dangerous for her entire community. Next slide, please. So a side note, keep that right there. A side note of background information. Climate action uses firefighting foam to put out wildfires. It has been necessary, and wildfires have been increasing all over the world. In context with this story, it was used to put out fires in jet engines at the Air Force Base. Go ahead and click, Carole. So global community action has risen out of grassroots action, and now 160 countries have banned PFAS since 2020. And the United States is still working on it. Go ahead and click. So and one more time, please. Community pressure is key. It's our key component to solving climate-based problems. A lot of grassroots action in this particular story, not only in Colorado, has become a global action. It's a necessary part of our framework. So next slide, please. So keeping this right here. So this woman's grassroots action started with a few friends in her living room, and it grew to 200 people, and including many experts. So they met with people from their state public health and environment office, and nobody helped them. Go ahead and click. So they asked, how can we correct the issue? Go ahead and click again. So they sought help from our federal government in the United States. And what do you think happened? Go ahead and click. Nothing happened. So they thought, go ahead, next slide, please. How do we get a seat at the table? And so they decided they would bring their own seat. Go ahead, next slide. So action eventually leads to more action. The federal government eventually included their community in a study to study PFAS in the water. Go ahead, next slide, please. So on the local level, they met their state legislation. A bill was written, it was voted on and passed. Took 3 years. So in 2019, there was no longer firefighter foam was no longer allowed to spill into the waterways. They'd had to find a new solution. And so this grassroots efforts created climate action, and it equally benefited everyone. And that is the point, through advocacy and through standing up and beginning at the community level. Go ahead, next slide. So what can you do now? Build a framework. You saw this earlier. The icons are a little different here, but it's the same framework. We gather facts. We ask why, how, when, where. We ask many questions. And then we lead by example, or we align ourselves with leaders who are doing the work. We add our voice, we advocate, and we collaborate. Your action, no matter how big or small, is essential right now. Go ahead, next slide. Yeah, there we go. All right, so Carole's going to click through, and these are some of the climate action areas that we can focus on. Maybe some of them will be meaningful to you. Some of us have background or a passion for some of these or many of these, or maybe just one of these different areas of gender equality and climate action. So I hope one of these will speak to you and that you'll stand up, you'll speak up and use your voice. You'll advocate, initiate, and create programming in your community, in your home, in your Zonta Club, or whatever group that you are affiliated with, maybe even at work. Create more opportunities and events, and help us with educating for change. Build your framework around these issues. This is super important right now. Go ahead, next slide. So we hope you bring your own seat to the table and get busy. I thank you for listening to me. Go ahead, next slide. Zonta Says Now. So let's get active now. Next slide, please. So I would like to introduce our next speaker and moderator of our Q&A session. His name is Errick Elavia. He's the District Governor of District 25, Zonta Club of Bombay 1 in India. And Errick is a role model for a program called He for She. He's the first male district governor in Zonta International's history, and believes that men should walk alongside women on the journey towards gender equality, which makes me want to clap and stand up right now. Errick is the principal of a co-educational school in Mumbai that caters to students from marginalized and low-income groups. He's an exceptional leader and recognized as one of India's 50 most influential school principals. Living in a high-risk region for extreme weather events, Errick promotes environmental consciousness among his students in Zonta clubs in District 25, which includes India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. So I leave it to Errick. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julie. Thanks very much. I've got a very short time. So I'm basically going to sum up with regards to developing countries. gendered face of climate change and environmental effects. Both women and men are affected by climate change and environmental degradation. However, existing inequalities, limited access to resources, restricted rights, and the lack of women's voices in decision-making increases women's vulnerability to effects of climate change. Poor women in particular, who are dependent on natural resources for their livelihoods, will struggle with the impacts of climate change. Women are just not victims of climate change. They are powerful agents of change with unique knowledge and skills. The empowerment of women to plan and implement measures to mitigate and adapt to climate change will make all our efforts more effective. We promote the integration of gender equality perspectives and principles into policies, plans, and programs on sustainable development, climate change, and disaster risk reduction. We advocate for the inclusion of women's participation in decision-making on climate change at all levels. Lastly, we recognize women's contribution as agents of change in mitigation and adaptation to climate change and seek to document and disseminate these good practices. Gender equality in India is the most desired state of form, which our nation is craving to have since long. Gender equality is no more a moral pressure or social issue, but also a social, economic, and a big challenge to our country. Gender equality leads to human development and the overall development of the nation. In the developing countries, discriminatory attitudes towards males or females have existed for generations and have affected both lives. Although the Indian Constitution has granted both men and women equal rights, gender disparities continue to live and rule. Indian society has always been the hub of this discrimination, making women its victim, and the land where women were worshipped as goddesses. The same nation leaves a blot of atrocities and inequality. It is a sad truth of society. However, it is essential to acknowledge that where gender equality exists, women are generally excluded or disadvantaged in decision-making and access to economic and social resources. The nation that has witnessed gender equality has also seen a developed nation. Therefore, promoting gender equality in developing countries is a critical aspect of women's empowerment. The significant causes of gender disparity are basically poverty, illiteracy, unemployment, social customs, belief, and anti-female attitude. Many developing countries have social prejudices, and that's keeping girls and women from learning to swim and climb trees. Many women cannot leave their homes without accompaniment or consent from their husband or one of their male relatives. Men can more easily warn each other as they meet in public places, but they rarely communicate information to the rest of the family. As a result, far more women than men perish in major floods which characterize life in the coastal areas. Research by the London School of Economics have found that natural disasters have killed an average more women than men. Boys were more likely to receive preferential treatment in rescue efforts, and women and children suffered more from food shortages and a lack of privacy safe in the aftermath of disasters. Ensuring greater gender equality will benefit society as a whole and help promote sustainable development. In conclusion, I would like to say, society should look for gender equality and burn their old school of thought that women are mere commodities. It's the only way to usher the nation on the track of prosperity and accomplishments. We all know that gender equality in India and rest of the world can immensely contribute to its progress in all the departments. Various stats and figures related to countries in which significant section of empowered women resides indicate that countries with a higher percentage of gender equality are rapidly rising every day on all fronts at the global level. Thank you very much. Now, we come to the question and answer session. Am I audible to everyone?
Right.
Yes,
Hello.
you're audible.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
We can have the question answers. You can put your question answers in the chat so that we can take it up. We have got received very good positive responses from our participants. Thank you very much for that. Any
Errick, I
questions?
see a question. Can a speaker give an example of a good club advocacy project on gender equality and climate change? I think some of our speakers might want to address that.
Bobbee, I can give you some examples from what we've been up to. In Australia, our biggest issue is just getting politicians to talk about climate change and actions that they can do about it. So our initial advocacy activities are all around raising awareness of the impacts on women and children around the world, and everyone around the world, of the impacts of those greenhouse gas emissions, to get them to take action, because our emissions are growing all the time and we're not going down. And so it's linking the two things together for our politicians is our actual first priority, so as they actually talk about it.
I can also address what's happening in District 12. Again, we have Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, and South Dakota, which are 4 western states, were affected severely by wildfires and dwindling fresh water supplies. And so one thing we did with our Action for Environment and Gender Equality Committee is we're putting together a web page to go into our District 12 website. And it's what you call somewhat of a clearinghouse or educational resources. But we've broken down not only national action, but local community action at every state level for climate action. And then we're going to break down into every specific recommendation from the U.S. Women's Caucus at the United Nations. And we have state by state action in every one of those recommendations. Our first one is water, but there are plenty others like health and disaster management. We talked about a few of these today. So we're starting with getting the information out and then presenting to the clubs what this is all about, and then giving them the support for brainstorming with ideas on what they can do at a community level. And I think Carole might have mentioned earlier that recycling programs or educational programs in K through 12, or just working on the 5 R's, recycle, repair, and empowering women with scholarships. We actually are standing up for new scholarships for women in environmental studies too.
If I could add further, once when this climate action had been introduced by ZI, I, as the governor, had started a competition amongst all my 15 clubs in District 25, covering India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. And I had requested the clubs to prepare a PowerPoint presentation on environment and degradation and climate change affecting their country and the women. And I must say, all the 15 clubs participated, and we gave the best club a governor's citation and an award. If I can request Bobbee or Carole to share this presentation with whoever is interested to show them in their own clubs, so you would be aware of the problems that even the developing countries are facing with regards to climate change and its effect on women.
Yes, on the Zonta Says Now website in Australia, we've actually uploaded all of the entries that Errick's district had. And when you go through them, it's great to see how everyone's taking everything on board. It's good. Thank you,
And
Errick.
we can also look into putting this on the ZontaUSACaucus website. In addition to that, there was a question about whether this presentation today would be recorded and available for others to view later. And I can say I'd love to get it up on the USA Caucus website, Julie. So I hope you will share it with us to do that.
Absolutely, this one is recorded. I did see a question also about using Carole's recorded her presentation, and I know you've used that in other areas. So I would suggest going to Zonta Says Now, or Carole, if you can comment on how to get your particular section.
Oh yes, well, we'll see what we can do to edit it, and if it doesn't work, I can always re-record that bit. But the website is zontasaysnow.org.au, and that's where we have a whole range of activities to look at. We record all of our think tank meetings, including the speakers, and we take off the short segments of the speakers, which we have as their own freestanding recordings as well. So we'll put that onto the website with those speakers. So it can be done.
There was another question on the chat from Karen Lange. Karen, I wondered if you wanted to ask it directly about taking this perhaps to the next level.
Oh yes, okay. Thank you so much to all of you, because that's really amazing what you're doing. And I just was thinking about the possibility to probably widen it a little bit to by a global think tank, which could meet quarterly with different experts from all over the globe. And I could imagine that, for instance, the caucus here in Germany, Zonta Union, would also like to set up there with a working group and to join this. And yeah, I just wanted to know if you plan something like that for the next biennium, that we join our forces globally.
I'm so pleased you asked that question, and my answer is yes, 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 yes. And so we're just working behind the scenes actually to work out how we do it. And so if you'd like to send me drop me an email, that would be wonderful. Just at zontasaysnow@gmail.com, and you can get through to me, and I'd like to make contact with you, and we can see what we can do.
Okay, so let's do so. Thank you, Carole.
Pleasure.
Glory needs the full recording, please, because she's having connection issues. So she'll definitely get it.
Yeah, so, but I think together we can do amazing things. I'm very aware of the time. Is there any one last question that needed to be asked? Otherwise, I'll perhaps need to start winding up. No? Okay. Well, I'll just want to thank everyone today for coming along and joining in this session. And I particularly want to thank you for hooking in today onto this webinar, and thank Bobbee and Jane and Errick and Julie. I hadn't met them before we started doing Zonta Says Now, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to get to know each other from different districts, different countries, and all doing different things. We all breathe the same air, and so it's really nice to share in the same work. And I mean, today we have heard all sorts of things. We've heard what Zonta International is, and then we learned of how a concern in one district in Australia led the creation of Zonta Says Now. We learned to get the facts, to lead by example, to add your voice, advocate and collaborate. And there's handy because there's one for each finger, you know? So get the facts, get the facts, lead by example, add your voice, advocate and collaborate. Easy. So then after we've done that, we found out about the USA caucus that brings together the 13 districts in the USA, and that's got a strong history of affecting changes in legislation in that country. So we can learn how they do that and apply it in other countries. And the USA set up a subcommittee to focus on climate change. I mean, we're shown how to create that sustainable engagement and change. Then we were showed what grassroots action looks like. It was coming from the heart, the storytelling, and what we can do in our own local communities. How one person can make a difference. Could you be that person in your community? And through the question and answer session, we explored a range of questions and advocacy ideas that we can do to make a more gender equal, sustainable world. So just thank you so much to Bobbee, Jane, Julie and Errick for making this such an enjoyable journey. And let's see what we can do to work together to have accelerate positive change. And that's positive change for the planet and for women and girls. And as Jane Goodall says, everything is connected and everyone can make a difference. And so together, would you like to join us in this pledge? As the presenters of this webinar, we got together and Errick was saying, we really ought to have a pledge to really stand together on this issue. So we pledge to advocate for gender equality and protect our community, our states, our country, and our planet through climate action together. Together being the big word here. So I thank you all for your time today, and I look forward to connecting with many more of you in months and years to come, because this is a long road we're traveling on, but every step is worth it. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.